Galactic Disney Captivity the Galaxy
Hello, welcome to GameGazm. I'm Bren.
And I'm And.
What? Where's Dan?
Wales?
Oh, right. Sweet. Anyway, what are we looking at today, Ant?
Recore, I do believe.
Oh.
And I would highly recommend that you start it now.
Oh, really?
Because it won't be loaded until probably this time tomorrow, next week, possibly. I mean,
Shit. I better go.
In fact, if you're watching this, by the time you finish the video, I'd probably imagine it be done. Maybe.
Right then, this is Recore, and finally it's a reason for me to turn on my Xbox One. Rejoice! So after the usual lengthy install, I fire up the game and it takes an absolute age to load. I figured, okay, this is just the initial startup, so I forgave it. Then you get to the logos of the people that make the game. Then, wait, what? Another loading screen? This doesn't bode well. Finally, after 2 minutes of loading, we hit the menu and we start the game. And guess what? Yeah, there's more loading. What the heck is this thing loading?
When you finally see the game running, my initial reaction was a little underwhelmed. But as you push on and start to see exactly how vast the environments are, they are quite stunning. The desert wastelands are very well made and it kind of reminds me of Tatooine, but very exaggerated.
Very exaggerated! You play as a girl called Jewel and you've got a robot dog called Mac. Why not? And from 2 title cards we know that you're on a planet called Far Eden. Basically it doesn't give you much plot to worry about at the start, just that something bad happened to Earth and you appear to be some sort of terraformer colony trying to prepare Far Eden for human survival. You learn some more as you go along and a lot of the lore is drip fed through audio diaries or other characters you meet along the way.
The voice acting is very good. Joel reminds me of a cross between Ellie from The Last of Us and Jade from Beyond Good and Evil. Cocky, strong-willed, and overall her character is really nice, and playing as her is really cool. You get around by double jumping, and you use your Exo jump jet to boost you in all directions on land and in the air. Aside from letting you get to hard to reach areas, it's very handy in combat too.
The movement is very fluid and responsive, and as a nice touch when you're in the air, a small target is projected on the ground where you will land to assist you with more tricky platforming elements. And this is very welcomed as the platforming in Recore is challenging in the later areas, and knowing where your feet are going to land is vital, because you know, you'll die and shit.
Heading out from your crawler, the game's main hub, you venture out across an open world area to discover dungeons. Think Zelda overworld with dungeons as levels, etc. You might think, wow, that's cool, and yes it is, although the loading is probably the worst I've seen in a long time. Load to get out of the crawler, walk a short distance to get to a door to get to another area, loads again. Get to the dungeon door, more loading. Really? If Naughty Dog can make Uncharted 4 without a loading screen from start to finish, then why can't this? It's even forced to install on the fecking hard drive!
Each dungeon has a level your character needs to be at, and you need the right amount of power cores to enter. This is just like Banjo-Kazooie with puzzle pieces, or Star Doors in Mario 64 for example. The dungeons all have treasures to find, boxes and power-ups hidden away with platforming-based puzzles to complete to find them. You'll also notice some of the areas of the dungeons aren't accessible to you without the right robot buddy, inviting you back at a later date to mop up the last few treasures. There's a lot of replay value here.
Right after the short tutorial dungeon and a boss fight, you're set free to roam and do as you wish, or follow the story. I chose to go off the beaten track a little, and managed to find a bonus dungeon that I could go in. The bonus dungeons are where all the epic loot is, and they pose more difficult challenges.
This particular one has a time limit, a bunch of hidden switches and a yellow key to find, all whilst hopping over some precarious platforming. This is where Recore really shows off what kind of fun gameplay is in store. So after much practice, we managed to sweep through the dungeon, defeating the time limit, hitting all the switches and getting the key to unlock some ultimate loot. Oh yeah!
But here's where I have to bring up something important. I played this game at first without the patch. I didn't realise that my box wasn't connected to the internet, so the game started with how it shipped. Basically, long story short, the game that's on the disc is so broken it's unbelievable. If you don't get the patch, well, just don't bother. Recore is unplayable without an internet connection to get that crucial update.
Now, we know a part of that update was to deal with the loading times, but after installing it, they're still fucking long! Average door is around 40 seconds, and it can be up to 2 minutes if it's loading into a cutscene. It's also lengthy if you die as well. It's so infuriating when you die, or make a stupid mistake and have to sit through loading screens. This will test your patience. Anyone remember Duke Nukem Forever's loading screen? Yes, it's like that. No joke.
Okay, so that is a major downer. But what about the combat, eh? Surely that's a reason to push on? Well, yes. The combat has been seemingly simplified for the sake of its own mechanics. You auto-lock on enemies and hold the right trigger to kill them. Aiming isn't ever really an issue. It's more about timing your moves and matching the colour of your weapon you're firing to the colour of the enemy to maximise damage. The enemies are colour-coded with bright primary colours.
See a red enemy? Use the red ammo on your gun to do more damage. You can build up your combo by combining regular fire with a charge shot and command your robot pal to deal out some damage too. When your enemy is weak enough, you can extract its core with your grapple hook. A little mini game of tug of war and the core is yours. Some bots are more difficult to extract than others. Of course, if you get your combo high enough, you can also use the instant extract that plucks the core right out in one go, causing an explosion that damages nearby enemies and all. Kapowie!
Your little robot buddies help out in various ways, and they are colour-coded too. Mac has a charge attack that can stun enemies heavily and do a decent amount of damage.
Didn't know he could do that.
You command him using the Y button, and depending on which robot buddy is with you, they will do different things. Seth the spider bot will send out a mini barrage of missiles, for example. He can also help you get access to areas you couldn't get to before. Think Metroidvania. This area is unreachable until you get the robot that can stick to walls and break through a giant rock in the way.
Another key element is upgrading your robot friends with newer parts that you can construct at the workbench in your crawler. After you've been out for a while plucking cores and collecting parts, your inventory will be full, so heading back often is wise, as enemies will get too difficult to handle if you aren't upgrading often. The workbench allows you to boost the cores of robots too, adding to their attack, defense and energy stats. You can also check out what parts you have left over in your stash, and combining some together to create better items for crafting. It's not the most streamlined crafting system, and it seems to be a little overcomplicated. The stats never seem to mean much in battle, and it can leave you feeling like you aren't making much of a difference. But it's not a bad thing really. I for one can't stand games where you spend most of your time in a menu screen, and Recore is thankfully more about the platforming and exploration above all else.
There are some scrappy moments in how it looks though. Frame rate during cutscenes is really sketchy, and when there's a lot happening on screen it can dip quite a lot. The graphics are pretty, but some items suffer with low resolution textures, and before I patched it, there were ugly black lines around distant scenery. Oh dear.
Under its flaws though is in fact a superb platformer that gets to shine through every now and then. I would actually liken it to collect 'em ups of yesteryear with a playstyle similar to the likes of Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank and Banjo-Kazooie, but with an added RPG element. But its loading times are absolutely appalling! However, despite them being so annoying, frequent and long, the game is just too good to not play, giving this a GameGazm 7.
Honestly, we want to score this much higher. It's above average only because when the game is good, it's really good. I hope that they can patch it to make it better, fix some of the glitches and get those damned loading times down even more, but at the time of recording this, it's not quite a AAA product. This trend of broken games being released needs to be stopped! Maybe we should review this based on what comes on the disc, rather than the patches?
Yeah, maybe we should, because if that's what they class as going gold, then fuck me! It's so unfinished Ubisoft are looking to publish it! Looks like day one patches are here to stay. But in closing, Recore is a fantastic game that you will, at times, hate to play.
You will survive. If anyone can, it's you. Love you always, Dad.
Oh, it's loaded, and that was Recore, finally.
Excellent. Yeah. It was, you know what? Despite the loading screen, which is very often and very long, the game is really good. It is really worth playing, and I really had fun with it. Like meeting the characters and the little robot buddies. You know, they're cute, they're adorable.
I want that dog.
Yeah, the dog. Yeah,
it turns with the RSPCA. I'm having it. I'm having it.
Yeah, I like Seth as well, like the spider bot, because like that mechanic where you can like grapple onto those spider rails, and he runs up and you jump and you have to get onto the other rails and stuff. It's so much fun. It actually reminds me a lot of Prince of Persia. You know, when you're doing those kind of like running along the walls and you're having to jump to other bits and stuff. But there you go. But yeah, no, Recore just. I mean, it's like Jak and Daxter. You play Jak and Daxter.
Oh
right?
God,
You know, like how you're collecting the power cores and that. It's kind of the same kind of thing. And like, I think if anyone's a massive fan of those kind of collect 'em ups of yesteryear, I think you're really going to enjoy Recore if you've got the patience of a saint, because those loading screens.
If I were you, I'd have the kettle on standby for
yeah.
every time, because if there's a loading screen coming, then it's oh dear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially if it loads a cutscene right after the loading screen. Normally, the normal loading screens are like 30 seconds, 30 to 40 seconds, which is long. But if it's loading a cutscene after the door, it can be up to 2 minutes.
Oh God.
It can be really bad.
Oh.
But as I say that, and that is a terrible thing, and that's even after the patch, after they said that they've released a patch to reduce the loading times. So yeah, kind of bad, but even with that massive flaw, I still can't help but love it. You know? It's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth
I mean,
it.
it certainly looks
worth it.
pretty as well, which is always a perk.
It does. It's very colourful, nicely laid out, and yeah, I'd recommend it. Yeah. Anyway, that's all the time we've had for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to leave us a like and also subscribe if you haven't already. As always, I've been Bren,
And for this one occasion, I've been Ant.
and we've been GameGazm.
GameGazm.
Never forget to do the thing.
I do apologise.
Always do the thing.
I'm new to this.